Okay, this evening we will have a Anagārika Ordination, and so can I have our candidates come up now, Theo and Andreas. And you may begin with the request.
Sambado garavaso rajopato abokaso papaja naidam sukaram agaram ajavasata ekanta paripurnam ekanta parisudam Sankalikitam brahmacharyam charitu yang nunaham kesamasu oharetva kasayani vatani achadetva agarasama anagariyam pabajayam.
The household life is cramped and dusty. The homeless life is free as air. It is not easy in living the household life to live the fully perfected holy life, purified and polished like a conch shell. Suppose I were to shave off my hair and beard, don the robes of a Buddhist monastic, and go forth from the household life into homelessness.
All right, very good. You did it. And this is now, before I hand you your whites to go put on, so you've made this formal request. This is straight out of the suttas, so this is like monastics who, or not yet monastics, lay householders who want to leave the household life have this thought come up. Suppose I were to shave off my hair and beard, don the robes of a Buddhist monastic, and so on. And it's an intention or an aspiration that comes up, and then you actually act on that. So you will be donning the white robes of the Anagārikas. I'm just going to take your sitting cloths out here. So you can go put these on. Put it to 90 degrees. Turn it 90 degrees. Yeah, there you go. So Theo and Andreas are putting on their whites to become Anagārikas, and this follows the format of the white-robed householders in the time of the Buddha, who were actually still householders, but they lived lives of renunciation following the 8 precepts. And there's a few famous figures in the suttas, in the teachings of the Buddha, the Buddhist canon, that we have these Buddhist white-robed householders who were had attained various stages of awakening, but still chose to live as householders. And we take that Anagārika format from them. So there's famous characters in the teachings like Gatikara, the potter. There's Panchakanga, and there's Chitta, the householder. So they pop up in various teachings, various suttas, where they actually, in some of them, they actually give teachings to the monks, because these white-robed householders were actually considered to have more insight than some of the bhikkhus. So sometimes they would actually give teachings to the bhikkhus, or the Buddha would have them actually teach the monks on various occasions. And Longpo Cha did something similar. He would actually have the lay people teach the monks sometimes. We don't really have that here yet, but maybe at some point. Particularly, he said he would have one of the old, in the northeast of Thailand, we say, me'ok, pa'ok, which means like, literally like out mother, out father, or your mother and fathers who are the people who are looking after the Sangha, who are caring for the monks. And the Longpo Cha would ask one of the old pa'oks to, he said, there was one occasion we said, you give the talk tonight, on the lunar observance day. He said, teach all these young monks about what it's like to be old. He said, just tell them what it's like. So they could talk about how they used to be strong, young farmers and villagers, and then over time they get older and they don't have as much energy. So sometimes it's understood that the older lay people can have more insight and that can share that insight with us. And it's not a sense of putting themselves higher than the monks, but it's just that they can share that knowledge with us. That was fast. Okay. So now they'll formally request the 8 precepts. Please.
Mayam Bante Tisaranena Saha Ata Silani Achama Dutiyampi Mayam Bante Tisaranena Saha Ata Silani Achama Tatiyampi Mayam Bante Tisaranena Saha Ata Silani Achama.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Bhutang saranang gacchami.
Buddham saranam gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Ti sarana kamanang ititam.
Amavante.
Panati pata veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
Adina dana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Adina dana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Abrahmacharya veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from any intentional sexual activity.
I undertake the precept to refrain from any intentional sexual activity.
Musawada veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Musawada veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
Sura meraya maja pamadatana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Sura merya maja pamadatana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times.
I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times.
Nacha gita varita visukadasana mala ganda vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Nacha gita vadita visakarasana mala ganda vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment.
I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment.
Uchasayana mahasayana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Uchasayana mahasayana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place.
Imani yata sikapadani samadhiyami.
Imani yata sikapadani samadhiyami. Imani yata sikapadani samadhiyami. Imani yata sikapadani samadhiyami.
Imani yata sikapadani silena sugating yanti silena boga sampada silena niputing yanti tasama silang visota ye.
Sadhu Bhante.
All right, so you're now wearing white, you're Anagārikas. Anagārika just means homeless one. So even though we have very good facilities here and we don't seem like homeless people, We actually are. So we technically, yeah, we don't have any income. We are homeless, but we're a different type of homeless person. We're homeless people who are following virtue. So the 8 precepts, not that all homeless people are unvirtuous, but we are following the 8 precepts, and the commitment to refuges and precepts is the foundation of the holy life, of the spiritual life, of the life lived in the monastery, or outside of the monastery, for that matter. So the refuges are Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and so Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. So that's, I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dhamma, I take refuge in Sangha, and that's a commitment to it. The refuges and all the teachings, like we chanted in Pali this evening, they're all very practical and useful, and there's nothing really that hidden about it. It's all applicable, it's all practical. And so the refuges, it's acknowledging that we're always taking refuge in something, but we haven't really been taking refuge in things that lead us to our long-term benefit and happiness. And we have been taking refuge in things that lead us in a wayward direction, down a wayward path. So we're trying to take refuge in the right things. So to take refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, these are considered places of safety and security and true refuges for the heart. And so on the external level, the Buddha is the Prince Siddhartha Gautama, who left home, left the palace at over 2,500 years ago in India, and sat under the Bodhi tree and achieved awakening and ended all suffering. That's the external refuge of Buddha. The external refuge of Dhamma is the teachings given by the Buddha during his 45-year teaching ministry to thousands of monastic and lay disciples who also reached stages of awakening under his guidance. So the Dhamma teaching, what we have is about the 22,000 recorded Pali pages of the Buddhist canon that we currently have that's been handed down to us. Some of it, much of it, which has been translated into English. That's the external Dhamma refuge. The external Sangha refuge it's not necessarily the monastic Sangha, but Sangha just means community, and it means those who have practiced well, those who have insight, and it can be monastics or lay people who have gained insight into the teachings. The internal Buddha refuge, which is the real place of safety, the real true refuge, is awareness. So awareness itself, which is always there, that's the true Buddha that we want to get in touch with, the knowing. In Thai we say the Puru. So that's the true internal Buddha. That's the real Buddha, the Buddha that we all have. So that's the internal refuge of Buddha, and then the internal refuge of Dhamma is the truth of the way things are. So coming back into touch of knowing the truth of the way things are, the Buddha knowing the Dhamma. This is the internal refuge of Dhamma, which is a place of security and safety, and then the internal refuge of Sangha is virtue itself. So as a true place of safety, something that we can rely on is virtue itself. So something like taking on the 8 precepts, that's a reliable place of safety. That's something we can fall back on. That's something that's a protection. Sila or virtue is the best protection. And then the 8 precepts, a lot of these are self-explanatory. The refraining from taking of life. This comes up in a practical sense where you try to have, you don't just automatically slap the mosquito on your arm, you brush it off instead. You develop these new habits. And of course, the coarser forms of taking life, you're probably not going to come up against that in terms of killing animals, or with the very worst, which would be killing human beings. And but it is a very important precept. So it's the first of the 5 precepts, it's the first of the 8 precepts, to not kill. So you could say that not killing is the first precept of Buddhism. And if everyone in the world was to follow even half of the first precept, then there would be peace in the world. There would be world peace. The world would be a very different place. What I mean by half of the first precept is if people all over the world just didn't kill human beings, just didn't kill other human beings, then the world would be a very different place. But we're taking it even further than that. We're trying to not take life of any form. And then there's the second precept, which is the refraining from taking that which is not given. So we rely on donations and offerings here in the community. And people give offerings to support the Bhikkhu Sangha, but then whatever isn't used by the Bhikkhu Sangha gets passed down to the novices, the Anagārikas, and the lay people who are living here. And so, and then also just know we have very few possessions when we live in this way, in this life. And so just knowing what your possessions are and actually looking after them, taking care of them, and then learning how to check or ask if you need something or want to make use of something in the monastery. The third precept, the brahmacharya, which is the foundation of the spiritual life, of the monastic life, is the celibacy. And we do follow that very, very strictly, and there's very clear rules and guidelines around that. And this includes not engaging in any form of sexual conduct with oneself or with others. And even though we're just kind of a group of guys trying to practice in the best way we can, that we do follow some of the strictest rules of celibacy of any religious order in the world, actually. And it's the reason we're able to do that is because the rules are so clear around it. So and this is in order to cool the mind of the types of desires which we normally take refuge in. So, and then come back to the refuge in awareness. And there's ways to work with this. We work with the Buddha's teachings around the practices of contemplating the true nature of our own body. And we do these contemplations of that the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. This is taught by the Buddha as one of the first meditation objects that we use in order to cool the passions and desires in the mind, in the heart, and look for happiness in different ways. So this is called relinquishing a coarser happiness for a more refined happiness. But then takes a lot of patient endurance, and it is very difficult to do, and there is a period of time where the body and the mind have to change into this different mode. But it is doable, it is possible, and it is possible to live in this way without just repressing and restraining our desires, but actually we can transmute them into spiritual energy, and we will learn how to do that over time. So that's the foundation of say, the monastic life, the spiritual life. And then the Buddha also was very clear in the teachings to say that those who live a life that is free from desire and passion, they truly shine. Ascetics and Brahmins who follow that precept really shine. And then the fourth precept is the refraining from lying. I actually kind of like the old chanting, our old original chanting book. It translated this one as Musawada, which is I undertake the precept to refrain from false and harmful speech being lying, but also harmful speech. Follow the fourfold right speech in the Buddha's teaching on the Noble Eightfold Path, which is refraining from lying, refraining from harsh speech, refraining from divisive speech, refraining from idle chatter. And idle chatter is, of course, the difficult one, but sometimes idle chatter is translated, in the Pali it's called sambapalapa, so you can use it's like an onomatopoeic word, and so it's translated as speech that is useless. So sometimes chatting and checking in with people is actually useful, so it wouldn't be sambapalapa. Like if you're, say, checking in with somebody, you're trying to uplift somebody, that wouldn't be considered useless speech, but sometimes we might fall into speech which is totally useless or divisive, where we're trying to divide people from each other, or trying to speak in a way that belittles others. That would be considered wrong speech, so we're trying to engage in right speech. Refraining from taking intoxicants. Technically, this means refraining from alcohol, but also in this monastery, we're not allowed to smoke marijuana, take LSD, heroin, fentanyl, methamphetamines, cocaine. I don't know, the list of whole, you can use your imagination, a list of all the drugs that might be mind-altering and cause us to go into an altered state. We are allowed things like tea and coffee and cocoa. That's about as extreme as it gets. And cigarettes, we aren't allowed to smoke cigarettes here. Some monasteries in Thailand that is still allowed, but in Ajahn Chah's branch monasteries since 1967, I think, that cigarettes were not allowed in the monastery. And so this is the basis for heedfulness, actually living just a very healthy lifestyle. Then the next three precepts are considered the renunciate precepts. This is the sixth precept, vikala bhojana, refraining from eating at the wrong time. So the right time is defined as between dawn and midday, where we have a light breakfast here, we have our main meal at 11. Outside of that time, there are various allowable tonics. There's limited things that we can have outside of that time that are allowed in the Buddhist discipline. And then the seventh precept, refraining from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. In Pali, there's a lot of words, and it's translated it's a very short English translation. So it's Nacha, Gita, Wadita, Visukadasana, Mala, Ganda, Vilepana, Dharana, Mandana, Vibhusanatana. That's 10 words. And we say that's refraining from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. That's 3 words. So this literally means things like refraining from dancing, singing, going to shows, refraining from using strong unguents and colognes on yourself, refraining from wearing bracelets and necklaces, refraining from adorning oneself. So people who come to the monastery, if you're going to become an Anagārika, we've had people come here who've had piercings, for example, like they have to take them out. Sometimes there's some of the piercings are very difficult to take out, but in order to become an Anagārika, you would have to take those out. Some of the senior monks, you can see that they used to have earrings and from their previous life, and you don't seem to have that issue. You don't have to remove tattoos. Tattoos are okay, are considered okay. It is a form of beautification, but you're welcome to keep it. You don't have to burn them off because that would look really awful, I think. And so then there's going to shows, singing, dancing. That's watching inappropriate shows. So it's all forms of, say, the ways we normally entertain ourselves. Of course, there are, we have a lot of books here in the monastery and so on. There's going to be, this is a commitment to a lack of distraction. We will find ways to distract ourselves, but they're going to be a bit more wholesome than the previous ways that we distracted ourselves. And there's not as many avenues of distraction here, so it's keeping the mind focused on the practice. Then the last of the 8 precepts is the refraining from lying on a higher luxurious sleeping place. And in these ordinations, I always like to say when I'm describing this 8th precept that it's for a great Tudong monk, for a monk who is considered a great forest monk. You'll go into their dwelling place and you won't know where they sleep. You won't be able to find where they sleep. And so that's simplicity of our bedding, not putting a lot of emphasis or a lot of energy into our bedding or how we sleep, just keeping it simple, a simple mat on the floor. Some of the monks sleep on yoga mats, some might sleep on a thermarest, just keeping it very simple. The rule in the Vinaya is we're not supposed to sleep on a bed more than 8 finger breadths, which is 8-inch high legs. Of course, on top of that, there is an allowance for as thick of a mattress as you could. There's no limit. You could have like a 2-foot thick mattress if you wanted to. So there are loopholes. You could get around it. Or if you're traveling and you're in a hotel, you just try to not be a burden. You don't have to refuse something if it's you're just doing it for a day and a night. That's all you have. Although a lot of monks will consider that to end up sleeping on the floor even in a hotel room while traveling. So those are the three refuges and the 8 precepts, a bit of a summary, and then with any of the 8 precepts, these are training guidelines for your lives, so if you end up breaking any of the precepts, you won't be just thrown out, unless you do something really bad. But what you would come and tell me, or tell one of the other senior monks, or someone you trust, and the telling of something, that's what we call confession, is just making it known. And you just say, for example, if you happen to suddenly get a midnight craving and you go into the pantry and take what is not given, you take some ice cream or something in the middle of the night, and that would break the taking what is not given and the eating at the wrong time, then you would let somebody know. And these are things that have actually happened. And so just let somebody know, and you would retake the precepts and try to redetermine to hold them better in the future. And they are training guidelines. It's not expected that you're going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot to learn in the beginning, especially a lot of new things. You're going to have bowls, and you're going to be eating out of bowls with the Sangha. So that's going to be a very new experience, and you're going to be doing bowl washing with the monks. And there's going to be a lot of new information right at first, so it could be a bit overwhelming, but then you will learn, you will get used to it. You have the other Anagārikas to teach you as well, to teach you the ropes. So this ceremony is almost complete. There is one more part to it, which is the formal taking dependence. And so please, you can get up onto your haunches. You don't need to bow again. And you can go into the chant for taking of dependence on myself and on the community.
Acharyo me bante hohi ayasmato nisaya vachami. Acharyo me bante hohi ayasmato nisaya vachami. Acharyo me bante hohi ayasmato nisaya vachami.
O paikam.
Sadhu bante.
Pati rupam.
Sadhu bante.
Pasadikena sampadehi.
Sadhu bante.
Ajatagedani tero maihang baro ahambi terasa baro. Ajatagedani tero maihang baro ahambi terasa baro. Ajatagedani tero maihang baro ahambi terasa baro.
You can bow 3 times and sit comfortably. You can sit in puppy up. So this is the you can hands on actually. It's the formal taking of dependence. Acharyo me bante hohi, ayasamato nisaya wachami. So it just means, may the Venerable One be my teacher. May I take you on as my teacher. And then I say, O paikang, which means something like, it is good. Pati rupang, it is well. Pasadi kena sampadehi, it's all good. They say sadhu bante. And then the ajatage dani tero, maihang baro, ahampi tero sabaro, meaning now the elder is my burden and I am the burden of the elder. So there's a mutual give and take. As a community, we've already discussed and decided to take these two on, take the two of you on as our burden, and to train you, or help you to train yourself, I should say, and to foster the roots of goodness in you. And like I said, there will be a lot to learn at first, and as you go along, and there will be inevitable difficulties. I know you've both been fairly excited for a while to take on the white robes, but it is the marriage can be exciting, but then it's what comes after that we want to try to make it actually work. So that's going to take some work. And again, we have myself, I mean, technically you've taken dependence on me, but you actually really take dependence on the community, and everybody's going to be helping you out and pointing things out to you. And you've already been joining the Vinaya classes, so you're learning a lot already. And you do gain access to the monks' utility building up above, so you will be mingling more with the Sangha and learning things also like different skills, sewing, broom making, these monastic skills that the newcomers will invariably learn. And then as far as a bit of a Dhamma reflection around Anagārika Ordination, it's a commitment. It's a commitment, and it's not that easy to make commitments. So having made a commitment, I think of it's like a commitment to stay in this monastery, to stay in this place, and to practice in this place. And actually a birding analogy came up into my mind today that I thought I would bring up, which is, it's like when you want to get a good photo of a bird, you can't just like walk around the forest and kind of get a good photo of a bird. Like if it's going to be a really good photo, you have to actually just wait. You have to actually stay in one place, and you have to just wait for those opportunities to arise. And the longer you stay in that place, the more those opportunities are going to arise. And then if you really are patient and you really know where to wait, and you really wait for a very long time, and then you'll perhaps see some of these behaviors of the birds, and you'll get a good shot. So it's the same as being in the monastery. You will be able to just being in this place. You're not going here and there. Apart from maybe driving monks to doctor's appointments or whatever is needed in the monastery. But you're living in the monastery, you're staying here. And when I was in Anagārika, it was almost a year before I stayed overnight away from the monastery. I was actually in the monastery for it's probably about 10 months before I actually spent the night away from Abhayagiri, and that was a 1-week spirit rock retreat with Luangpur Suchito and Sister Chandasiri, which was amazing. But then I became a novice soon after that. And I find myself wanting to give you envelopes with new names, but you have to wait till you're novices to do that. And this is the first gate of ordination, of the 3 gates of ordination. The first gate being the Anagārika Ordination, the second gate being the Samanera, or the novice ordination, and the third gate being the full bhikkhu ordination, the Upasampada. So you're through the first gate, and may you be well. Wish you all the best, and don't hesitate to ask questions and clear up doubts. And very happy to have you. So sadhu, anumodana. And there should be seats set out for you. So I think at this time you can take your place in the line. Maybe one on each side.
Over here.
Here, others. So you can take your sitting cloth over there. Andreas, you could go over there. Also, before we end, this is it's one of those times when the Lunar Observance Day coincides with our Saturday program. So if anybody, the all-night sit is optional, but anybody who would like to stay up is welcome to do so. If anybody would like to take a rest, also welcome to do that, or practice on your own at your kuti. And then tomorrow is a normal day after Lunar Observance Day schedule. So open day, there's just the 7 a.m. breakfast, 11 a.m. meal, and people who are helping with meal preparation. Otherwise, it's no pujas tomorrow. It's an open day. And if we could close with page 33, the verses of sharing and aspiration in English. And sharing the merit with our new candidates, our new Anagárikas, Anagārika Theo and Anagārika Ordination. Let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration through the goodness that arises from my practice. May my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge, unsurpasses the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhimadhi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasam Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangha